Hi, Erin. Thanks for getting the color wheels in there. I'm going to concentrate on split complements again. With split complements, you have three colors, and in the color wheel that you added, you're pointing to four, I believe. So your pointer will actually look like a Y, and I'm going to suggest you take a look at John's. He has a pretty good example that's clear and easy to understand. Now, when I look at the art itself, I'm seeing only two colors, really. There's a tiny bit of variation, but essentially you've got green and magenta, and one of those colors is a shade of magenta. And I wanted to refer you to links that I provided in, I think it was Questions for the Professor, for some other ideas about how to expand on this design or a mural design. Hi, Kendall. I'm glad to see that you were able to get color wheels in here, and things look pretty good. The one thing we have to take a look at is the tetrad, and your four colors need to be equally spaced on the color wheel, and with a 24-step wheel, that means they should be 6 apart. Also, when I take a look at the top left, I see a red or red magenta color that doesn't seem to belong, so I want you to be scrupulous and make sure that the colors used are just those that you point to and that you point to the right ones. John, this is nice work for week 5 from you, and good presentation too. The only little thing I can see with the color harmonies is in tetrad, your green is turning up more of a cyan green, and you point to something that's yellow green. Okay, Beverly, well, it looks like you've revised this. Looking at the color wheel for triad, remember, on a 24-step wheel, your colors need to be 8 steps apart, and I'm counting 7. I think you're pointing to the ones that you used there. I took a look, and I wanted to suggest to you with this design to try to work with warm and cool colors in the context of the overlapping. Can you use tints, tones, and shades also, perhaps, because there's definitely an overlapping of rectangles going on here. This is a design that could become more complex by using color in a more sophisticated way. Well, Nina, you are throwing down the gauntlet for the rest of the class. You are giving everybody a challenge, sort of like, look what I can do, can you match it, sort of thing. These are beautiful and are correct, neatly presented. Gee, I haven't been pointing out one that I think would be best to work on toward assignment 1 in week 6, but in your set, I'm attracted to the complementary harmony. And I think it doesn't have as much to do with the colors, but more to do with the dramatic change in value with those 3 vertical rows of diamonds, where half is light and half is a shade. Well, hi, Vicki. You seem to have the gist of things. I'm looking at the triad, and I'm wondering if colors are 8 steps apart on the color wheel. Also, complements need to be clear across from one another on the color wheel. And it looks like you've got a yellow green color, and maybe actually you didn't point to the right purplish color. I want you to double check that. Now, I'm looking at triad, which is kind of fascinating color-wise. I notice how the yellow is operating very well for this sort of hallway divider. Notice that that's a light color and it's a saturated color, so it seems to come forward when we see the larger shape of it. Maybe you can use a little of the color theory to create the space here. We say that cyan is cool, but it's also light, so it doesn't sit back as well as maybe the shade of cyan. So I'm looking at the door versus the wall, and I might even switch those 2 colors. Also, I like to ask, why should one door be smaller than the other? It makes me think that one's for children and the other's for grown-ups. I just want you to think about that to try to rationalize how the design can make sense. Well, hi, Angie. This is a beautiful design. Oftentimes I see stars, and they just feel like cookie-cutter shapes that the artist didn't really manage much, but I think you've done a lovely job here. I wonder whether this star could be centered in the composition, which might be easy to accomplish by trimming a little from the bottom. Give it some thought. It looks to me like you're working in Photoshop, and sometimes lines are hard to work with when you want to go in and add color later. You might post your file in the Photoshop learning center and ask the tutor in the troubleshooting discussion whether they have any ideas about how you could tidy up your lines. And color-wise, the only thing I would say is in your split complementary on bottom right, it seems like there's a shortage of the darker blue. Well, Vicky, I like the look of your work. Let's talk color now. Let's see, in monochrome, I'm seeing an orangey color as well as a red, and you'd want to just go with one red. When I take a look at tetrad, I think that the violet color you've got is a cooler blue violet rather than a magenta violet. So you may like to change things there. And split complements, you don't have the arrangement quite right on the color wheel. I want you to take a look at John's split complements here. He's got a good example. And when I look to triad, I am not seeing cyan. You know, if it were me making this, I'd start with the color wheel and pick my color from the color wheel first and then choose from that field and then take the paint bucket or use fill to fill in areas of my shapes. Hi Megan, you know, I like your design, but it's going to need to grow a little more complex, and I want you to be super exacting about spacing. I want you to zoom in and move things one pixel at a time with the up, down, right, left keys. Now, colors wise, things are looking okay, except for complementary. You've got three colors there. You've got a cyan, a blue, and a red, and you can only go with two with a complementary arrangement. Now, let's take a look at split complements. I actually think your colors are right there. However, your pointer looks as though it's pointing to four colors. So what we want are yellow, and then the blue magenta color, and the true blue color. Catherine, these are beautiful. They're real eye dazzlers. You know, the only little thing I can find here colors wise is in tetrad. You need to have colors that are 6 steps apart from each other, and I think some are closer and some are farther because the shape in the middle of your round color wheel is a rectangle, not a square. You know, I want to suggest to you that you save your final at a slightly higher resolution. By the way, I like that light tone of green in the complementary one. Well, hi Derek. You know, I like what you did for assignment 2. I think I didn't see it right away. Maybe it wasn't posted in the right file format or something. When it comes to assignment 3, I really don't think you picked your best design, or maybe you need to go back and revise it some. I don't understand why you would want to change the proportion of the fleur-de-lis. Additionally, I see the fleur-de-lis as a kind of cookie cutter shape. You know, it's a ready-made fab shape, and I would like to see you exert a little more creativity, like the bottom left thumbnail in assignment 2 is the one that grabs my eye, or even the top left one is quite nice. You know, I feel like we don't have the color wheels with the pointers here. We don't have names for the harmonies. Everything is kind of vague. I'm guessing that the green one is meant to be monochrome, but I pointed out in a drafts review that that's really analogous. Maybe you were intending the yellow one to be analogous, and that's okay. It looks like the red one is meant to be complementary, but remember, cyan and red are complements. If you throw in blue additionally, that is not a true complementary harmony, and I don't know what you have in mind for the light blue one. Bear in mind that assignment 1 in week 6 is worth 70 points. That means you're meant to do considerable revision from what you had with one of your thumbnails in assignment 3 week 5. So Derek, you and the entire class can go to work to make a really lovely portfolio piece out of this final project.